you understand shame, you understand it's a social construct. We cannot experience shame without an other. And when we are in, open and when we are outside, it's easy to kind of experience that shame and know that it's there. But the problem is that now we're in our bedrooms and we're laying in our bed and we're looking at our phone and we're feeling this deep sense of shame when we look at somebody else's life, what we imagine them to be. And so if you understand, shame makes us hide, right? And it doesn't just necessarily make us hide our bodies, which it does as well, but it makes us hide internally. And that's why it's so dangerous within relationships.
Hey, housewives, come on in. You know the dirty dishes are still in the sink from yesterday and the laundry is still in the basket. Pop your AirPods in and make yourself at home here.
I'm Tracy.
I'm Tori.
And we are your Unlikely Housewives. Stepping out in faith and believing that God calls the unlikely, we are here to show you the appreciation and validation you deserve, lead you to authentic relationships, and release you of believing the cultural lies to restore your faith and wellness.
Pull up those high-waisted yoga pants, tighten your top knot, and reheat your coffee for the third time. Turn up the volume, and let's go. Housewives.
Hey.
We are so excited to have this guest back. Oh my gosh.
She's amazing.
She is. Her first episode with us dropped in July.
Yeah.
And that's For the One Who
She actually
burdened by a secret.
Yes. She actually was one of the reasons why we came up with this series. It's just like my
that's
mind is
right.
doing this right now as we're recording. But we were looking up shame. That's what we were searching because all these episode titles that we're like, man, this is like all about shame. And we looked her up on Podmatch with the word shame. And that's how we found her. Looky there. I'm just
light bulb on.
I know. I mean, we knew that obviously. So this is why we did part 2 though, was because we had her on for her story. Cause that was part of.
Yes. That was the initial part. And then the book was being released in October.
Yes.
The book is out now.
Uh-huh.
She is also on the OWN networks. Yeah. She's an episode in a docuseries called Unlocked Family Secrets. Mm-hmm. So you have to check out that episode. That episode originally aired on October 18th. So definitely want to check out Dr. Zoe Shaw. Yeah. I mean, we talk about shame in that original episode with her story, but we're talking about her book more specifically in this episode. And that is Stronger in the Difficult Places. And to sum it up, she has put to words what you've been feeling all along.
Yeah. You can now have language to just talking about it.
Yeah.
Those feelings that you're like, I just don't understand. Like, there's words to it.
Yes. And if you were somebody who went into the Brene Brown like books and all the things, because this is me, I will definitely say I was one of those people who I wanted to understand of being authentic, being in the arena, who you give it. To me, quote unquote, it didn't work. Like I still felt like, why isn't this working? Like if I accept all these things to be true, and if I'm doing all this, like, why isn't this working? And she explains why, because it's a completely different level of shame. And that's something that again, light bulb moment. And I was like, oh my gosh. So again, when you don't understand Brene Brown, you're like, why isn't this working? You feel more shame. But this was very eye-opening. And
we laughed a lot. It was so good.
Did.
Her smile is contagious. Her heart for even something like so difficult to talk about shame, like she speaks with it with so much joy and hope. It's just, she's an incredible guest to have had on. She also has her own podcast and you're going to love this episode.
Yes. And this one is for the one who feels shame.
Enjoy.
Hey, housewives.
Hey, welcome back.
Welcome back. You guys, we are so incredibly blessed to have Dr. Zoe Shaw back on here with us. And if you don't know who we're talking about, her episode was released on July 22nd, and it is For the One Who is Burdened by a Secret. And you have got to go listen to her story. It is just incredible. And I know you're going to hear bits and pieces of it. So, because today we're going to talk about her book. But before we do that, I'm going to have Tracy give her a formal introduction.
Yes. Well, welcome back, Dr. Zoe Shaw, a licensed psychotherapist, author, speaker, podcast host, relationships coach, fitness enthusiast, and mom to 5. She's passionate about helping women overcome shame and codependency so they can experience health in their relationships with themselves and others. After 15 years in traditional psychotherapy practice, Dr. Zoe jumped off the couch and now helps women using a different modality, a mix of virtual therapy, coaching services, and programs through a lens of psychology, faith, and a dash of feminism. And she is going to be, or she was just released this fall on the Oprah Winfrey Network, Unlocked Family Secrets, a docuseries. So we are so excited to have you with us again.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here with you ladies. Our last conversation was amazing, and I just love what you do.
Well, thank you. We always talk about how we selfishly have guests on for our own sake, and you being a psychotherapist, like we definitely need, I know I need you. We can unpack. I'm ready to stop unpacking your life. Let's talk about mine. But we can do that another time. That's not recorded. So you have released this book. It is, how does it feel to have it in paper? I mean, you've been telling your story and sharing what you've learned and what you've taken away from your own stuff. But now like it's book form. Like I almost feel like it's real, right?
Yes.
Like
it is. You know, I was really ready for it to be a very anticlimactic day. It's like, okay, book launch, but it really became one of those pinch me days. Like, is this real? Is this really happening? Because, well, as a writer, we dream of our words getting out there into the world, right? And I know that I try very hard not to take it for granted that I've been able to write and get the book deals and get my words out there. And so it's just one of those wonderful moments for me where I can just pause and just go, thank you, God. Like I can now clearly see the whole journey and how he lined it up and all the rejections and all the time delays and all the hard stories, everything so that it could be here at this time. So it's been wonderful. And the feedback. The reason why I wrote this book was not just to share my hard story. Everybody has a hard story. It was really to touch those out there who have shame, who have secrets, who are hiding, who, it's sabotaging their life. And that I'm starting to hear from people that it's touching them in that way. And it's just like, okay, it was what it was for. So, yeah.
I know when we started the You Are Not Alone for the One series, we struggled with the title for a long time. And at first, we really talked about it because it all was about shame.
Mm-hmm. It was.
The common theme of the topics we were talking about are all that shame, the complexity of it, like of this. The shame that you put on yourself, the shame that others put on you, the shame that you just feel and you don't know why, and so it was really one of those moments. So like to see on the back of your book, it's You're Not Alone. We're like, yes, it is. I mean, it does. It's for our listeners who have been with us this whole series for the one who it is. I mean, I think every single one of the episodes goes back to something like, but shame is not where we're supposed to be.
Yeah. No.
And for them to have your book to be able to
process it.
Yeah. Unlock it. I mean, I got to read some of these like the chapter titles that she's got. I mean, understanding the hidden burden, what's different about complex shame. She's really good. Everything has 2 titles on it. It has a title and a subtitle. And so it's for those practical people. And then the other ones that are like, no, really, I just need to know what to say. The Great Escape, running from the weight of your shame. Yeah, exactly. Fixing others won't fix you, breaking the cycle. Like this is, but then you've got trauma and complex shame, untangling the connection. And then the gift of acceptance, loving yourself as you are, permission to heal, the art of forgiving yourself. Like it's the whole process of walking through for our listeners. So I do highly recommend grabbing the book. So we'll put the link in the show notes. for you guys?
All right. So here's where I would love for you to start, because just give I know this is like hard to do, but like a 3-minute snapshot for those that maybe haven't listened to our previous episode of how you got, like, what your secret, what your, just shame was around. And then let's jump into how you started breaking it down, because we know your full story, but just for those that are here, we want them to catch a glimpse of it.
Yeah. So first, everyone has a shame story. And although mine might seem a little deeper, maybe everybody has a shame story that they need to get over. So my shame story was, I grew up in an all-white farming community as a Black girl in a small town in Smithsburg, Maryland. That's where I developed, and I talk in the book about the different types of shame. So that's where I developed my racial identity shame, just learning from others that there was something wrong in their eyes with the color of my skin. Fast forward to when I was 15, I got pregnant, and I also grew up in a very fundamental Christian home. My dad was a prominent doctor in the community, and my parents were like, that's not happening here. And so when they found out that I was pregnant, I hid it for a long time until I couldn't anymore. They sent me away to a pregnancy home in Virginia with the understanding that I would come back without a child. And I was very, compliant child at that time. I co-signed with all the shame. I did exactly what was told, and I gave birth unmedicated in a hospital in Virginia, left my baby there, and came back home to pretend like nothing had happened. And that's where my shame met my grief, met my trauma, and I learned to bury it. And I buried it with accomplishments, with pretending, with covering up, with overachieving academically, athletically. I got a scholarship to UCLA, got my, bachelor's degree, master's degree, doctorate degree in clinical psych, got married early, tried to do like all the right things, right? And the most perfect ways, and tie everything up with a bow until my first kept daughter was born. And she was born with a very rare genetic disorder. And we were sitting in the NICU and not knowing if she was going to live or die, not knowing if she had, brain activity or not. And that's where I began to develop this story that God was punishing me for placing my first daughter for adoption and punishing my daughter. And so my shame dam broke, and I spiraled for many years and eventually came to a place where I both studied and understood on a personal level how to, number one, create a language for the type of shame that I have. And I can talk a little bit more about that. And then also began to help walk my clients through our overcoming complex shame, eventually got to a place of healing, and to that very last step I talk about in the complex shame journey, which is maintenance. But it was a long journey. And, I outline it, of course, in detail in my book, and I told a lot more of it on the previous podcast.
Well, I think it's so cool that because just having talked to you just a few months ago, to see, we obviously knew the book was coming and it was in the writing, or it was in the works, to see how far you've come and what you opening up, telling your story has done, not just for you, but for everybody who gets a piece of the podcast, of the book, even the docuseries that's going to be on there. You are giving women and people, but women, permission to overcome any secret that you're holding on to. And that is, the mission of the podcast is, for the one, just if someone can get closer to God by releasing shame and, getting some freedom in that relationship with him and walking with him, that's the answer. And I love how far you've come in these last few months. It's so exciting.
Thank you. Thank you. And yes, sometimes it's a secret that we're hiding, and sometimes it's just shame that we're holding. It may be that everybody knows, but we still have this deep shame, or maybe it's that nobody knows and we've been hiding it and carrying a burden. Either way, it's a burden, and either way, it affects us physiologically, emotionally, psychologically, and relationally. And my life's mission is to help people untangle that and live in a place of maintenance when it comes to shame.
Okay, so I have a question. You had already gotten your doctorate as a psychotherapist, and when you hadn't even processed yet, because you hadn't come to the realization yourself yet. Right. So, but part of me wants to know, what brought you into psychotherapy? What interested you? That did you think you subconsciously knew? That's where you because you have such a story
Right.
that of course it would relate to what clients have, and you can uniquely relate to them.
Yes, that's a great question. I've always been drawn to psychology. My mother had a degree in psychology. And so I think just in the way that she talked to me and helped me kind of pay attention to people, I've always been drawn to it. But, in researching, studying clinical psychology for all the years that I studied clinical psychology, I knew that obviously I didn't come away from that experience unscathed. It just took me a long time to create a language for what I was experiencing. And what I didn't understand, or at least wasn't able to pay attention to on a conscious level, was all of the damage that not truly healing from it did to me. I think probably I rationalized that kind of because I had all this clinical knowledge, like I understood and I was good, but I wasn't good. And so it really wasn't until that shame dam broke that I had to really go, oh, okay, I'm not okay. And this isn't okay. And this isn't healed. And I have to work through this, or this is going to continue to sabotage my life and my relationships.
It's your relationship with yourself is one piece,
right?
That you talk about, but it's also the relationship with others.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're holding onto a burden or a secret or the shame, you're not fully authentically yourself with the people that you want to be. And we talk a lot on our podcast about isolation. And I think that absolutely, if you're stuck in a shame cycle, you're going to isolate because you're going to be afraid, that someone sees or someone knows what you've gone through. And I think that's not even just with shame, but just we always say you don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but when you go out, you feel like people do.
Yeah. Yeah. You feel vulnerable, and when you talk about isolating, sometimes people might think, but I don't isolate, but we can isolate in company of other people because it's an internal isolation, right? So everybody has heard that term of like, you're with your people and you feel very lonely.
Yeah.
That's what shame makes us do, because we are hiding, even though we may be gregarious, even though we may be social, even though we may have circles, we're still hiding. And so we feel very, very isolated.
That's
so real.
Isolation is one of the enemy's greatest tools, is just pulling us and making us think that we are alone and that no one knows how we feel. And they would be so disappointed if they knew. And, but it's the you are not alone part. It's that if you don't have these conversations with people, if you don't open up and say, okay, like I'm not healed yet, but the part of me, I have to tell you this, what I'm dealing with, what I'm struggling with, what this part of my life that I'm really scared you're going to judge. And, when we can do that, but again, it's the isolation. And I like how you said that you're in isolation with company of people. Yeah. Because I feel like social media makes that worse.
It does.
Because people think that they have friends, air quotes there. And, we see so-and-so on Facebook all the time. So-and-so comes up on my feed all the time. And she's always posting pictures of her family and her, her work trips and this and this and this. And yet inside she's slowly dying.
Yeah. And on the outside, we see her as having this amazing life, right? So she's over here slowly dying behind her phone. And we are over here behind our phone, imagining that her life is so much better. And we're feeling this sense of shame, right? Because we're comparing ourselves to her. Yep. And that's the other thing that our modern society does is if you understand shame, you understand it's a social construct. We cannot experience shame without an other. And when we are in, open and when we are outside, it's easy to kind of experience that shame and know that it's there. But the problem is that now we're in our bedrooms and we're laying in our bed and we're looking at our phone and we're feeling this deep sense of shame when we look at somebody else's life, what we imagine them to be. And so if you understand, shame makes us hide, right? And it doesn't just necessarily make us hide our bodies, which it does as well, but it makes us hide internally. And that's why it's so dangerous within relationships.
That's so good.
So good and so scary.
Yes.
And too, because if we're not addressing,
what'd you say?
I said it's scary because if we're not addressing it,
right?
Like that's what holds so many people back from living out like who God's called them to be.
Yeah. And so that's the thing, because I talk about shame. Like, shame is such a yucky kind of word that a lot of people.
And you say it with a smile.
I do.
Yeah.
And I will continue to say it with a smile, because what I want people to know is that I don't talk about it to make them feel bad. And I don't talk about it because I'm in a bad place. I talk about it because I've had that joy and I've had that freedom of being able to overcome it. Mm-hmm. And so when I talk about shame, I always want to attach it to joy and freedom, because that's open and that opportunity is there for everybody. I think it helps if you guys would like to unpack the types of shame so that someone out there listening can think about, like, what, like, do I have that? What's going on?
I was about to ask, because I wanted a definition, because it annoys me when churches just talk about sin and do not define what sin is and give like specific, like, this is it. Because the other thing that the enemy is doing is taking the definitions of words. I mean, and things now have different definitions that they were never supposed to have. And so, yes, please do define shame, and then the different types of shame.
Right. Well, you started with the enemy taking words. And so this is my deep belief after, researching and studying the Bible and shame and the origin, of the meaning of shame. And it's so interesting, because if you look back at Genesis, right? Adam and Eve were naked and without shame. Right? Mm-hmm. They had zero shame. It wasn't until the fall, until they sinned, that shame happened. Now, it's very interesting, because our church, Christians, we love shame. Like, we take it and we use it as a tool, and we think it's almost a good thing. Like, you should feel shame. But if you look back at Genesis, the enemy created shame in humans as a result of sin to distance them from God. That's the only purpose of shame, is to distance them. And God looked at Adam and Eve. He's like, what? Like, what's going on? Why are you guys covering yourself? Like, I didn't make you to feel shame, right? Yeah. And so if we can understand, and that's why I am so adamant that shame is a dysfunctional, toxic, unhealthy experience, psychological place, effect, emotion, whatever you want to call it, because it was created for the purpose of distancing us. As soon as they felt shame, they began to hide. They ran from God. They lied. They did all of these things, right? That's the only purpose of shame, is to make us hide. Now, guilt is different. Guilt is a healthy emotion when it's felt validly, because there's invalid guilt. Mom guilt, we all know about mom guilt. Yes. But when guilt is valid, it is a healthy emotion that actually does the opposite. It brings us to God. And the reason why is because guilt tells us you have done something that's wrong. You've done something to break your moral code. It's not about who you are, it's what you've done. And when you've done something to break your moral code, you can then go back and repair. Now, we can't always fix everything we did that was wrong, but we can apologize, we can be remorseful, and then we can change our behavior moving forward, right? That's why guilt is healthy, because it's an inciter for healthy change. God created guilt, right? And he created a remedy for it.
Would you compare guilt because I want to make sure I'm to understand guilt, wouldn't that like justified guilt, like you said, because there is a good guilt, equal to conviction.
Yes.
It's that knowing, that feeling of conviction of knowing, like, oh, I really shouldn't have done that.
Right. But if you listen to it, I shouldn't have done that. Shame says I am wrong. Shame is a physiological state, a message, and an emotion that says I am unworthy, I am wrong. So if that's the case, if you are inherently broken and unworthy, then there's nothing you can do but hide, because you don't want people to see that, right?
Yeah.
So that's the difference between shame and guilt. Shame is attached to your identity, who I am. Guilt is attached to a behavior. I did something that was wrong. So those are the differences.
Okay. That's a good visual.
Yes, it is.
So if you're looking for shame,
I know.
If you're looking for shame in your life, a really easy kind of indicator is anywhere in the world that you are hiding. Anytime you feel like, oh, I don't want them to know, or I don't want them to see, or, let me hide that. That's where your shame lives. And so I can talk to you a little bit about the different types of shame that I've identified in the book. And I won't go super deep because it's kind of boring if I get too deep in the woods, but I do in the book. And so there's 7 different types of shame that I've identified. The first is religious shame. And that shame can happen as a result of really the church shaming you for lots of things that the church tends to shame you for. And it's interesting because, I talk about worm theology in the book and this idea that we must be inherently unworthy in order to be able to kind of accept God's love. But that's not really the story that Christ told us in the Bible. In fact, he said, you are so worthy, right? That I came to save you. That's how worthy you are. Like every single hair on your head, I know. But somehow things get a little twisted in the church. And so we can develop some religious shame based on the shaming practices that happen in the church. The other is body shame. And that is a shame that we all feel, just that social construct, this idea that something's wrong with my body, my cellulite, my wrinkles, my hair, my height, my nose, my color, whatever. And then there's hereditary shame. And this is really interesting because hereditary shame is not that different from trauma. And so we don't realize that we can feel shame for something that we've never done, but has kind of been passed down to us in our family history. And we can talk about we won't necessarily talk about it, but that can be multi-generationally in terms of words that are passed down, stories that are passed down, ideas of who you are, how people see you. And then there's also genetically, just like trauma is passed down genetically, shame can also be passed down genetically. So there's hereditary shame. Then there's gender shame. And this is not about sexuality. This is about gender. And when it comes to that, there are these constructs that we know in society about how certain genders should be, like whether you're feminine enough or masculine enough. And so, little girls can grow up and feel like maybe they're not feminine enough, or boys can grow up and feel like maybe they're not masculine enough, or in some way, shape, or form, they're not conforming to their gender norm. And that's how gender shame can develop. The other is racial shame, which is obviously being shamed for who you are ethnically. I'm not saying that word right. Mm-hmm. Your ethnicity. There we go. The color of your skin, right? That can create shame depending on whatever your social kind of environment is. And then there's trauma shame. And inherent in every trauma is shame. It's just unavoidable. And so if you have been traumatized, there is shame attached to it. It's not valid, but all of our shame is a lie. All of the shames are lies. And so anyone who has had trauma also has shame attached to it. And then there's imposter syndrome shame. And that is a shame that we experience and we can experience academically in school. We can experience it at work. We can experience in various parts of our lives where we feel like we didn't really earn this, deserve this. We don't know enough. We're not as good as other people doing this thing in our space. So those are the types of shame that I've outlined. And so if you're, listening, you can probably identify that some of these are stronger, bigger shames for you. There might be one that's like a huge one, and it helps you kind of understand how and where your shame came from.
That's so to hear the different types. And I mean, I can see on each one just something that socially, has been communicated culturally, right. And how you can take away something and just go, right, I'm not skinny like the girl in the magazine. Right. I need to be more of a wife that cooks and cleans versus the working mom, or mom guilt, right. That mom really should be called mom shame, I guess, with that.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. Yeah. And I was going to say too, we've had this conversation before. We can feel shame, obviously, but being shamed is another level, right? And I mean, that's not necessarily in what you were speaking to. It's all of the shames that you identified. That's what we take on. Is that correct? So what's it called, or how do you describe the shame that people want to put on you?
Right. Well, those are toxic messages, right? And so I think with all of these, we can either feel them through body language, or we can just feel them through comparison, or they are put on us, right? They are put on us because of the words that people tell us. So for all of them, it can happen both ways. But when we look at, and we'll talk about complex shame versus simple shame, but we get shamed through toxic messages, and people do tend to put that on us. Yes.
So how do we put that guard up?
Yeah. How do we say do
Not receiving?
Yeah, not receiving shame messages or return to sender.
Yes.
I love the return to sender. That one is great.
Take
That
me
one's
off of this distribution list. That's one of my favorites too. Just please.
I love that. And you know what? That is what I talk about in the maintenance phase of shame. So first we've got to figure out our shame. First, we've got to understand what type we have. Then we have to work through deconstructing it. And so let me talk a little bit about deconstructing, and then we'll talk a little bit about maintenance.
Okay.
So there are different types of shame. So I talked about those kind of buckets of shame. And then there's complex shame and there's toxic shame, which we won't really get into today because that's really kind of more a personality disorder. And then there's complex shame. So the simple shame, the way that we get over simple shame is that we talk about it. We learn to be brave and courageous, and we talk about the things we're ashamed of. And other people give us external compassion, and our shame really does disappear. That's why you guys did your show, right? That's
I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
I was like, Tracy, look at us. This is why we did Unlikely Housewives.
Yeah.
Because again, like at first we were like, oh, we're putting this out on the internet for forever. And then when we got feedback, they were like, oh my gosh, I feel the same way. We were like, okay, good. Okay, good. But I didn't, to realize that that's like mental or subconsciously we were putting it out there too. Mm-hmm. So, okay, perfect example. Thank you.
That is the antidote for simple shame. And so a lot of people will try to apply that antidote. That's kind of the Brene Brown antidote to simple shame. And for many shames, it works. But then there's a type of shame where you're vulnerable. You share your story or you share something that you're feeling shamed about. And either number one, when the person gives you external compassion, when they say me too, or it wasn't your fault, or all of the compassion that they could give you, what happens internally is you say, oh, but you don't understand. If you really knew, you would not be giving me this compassion. And so your shame goes deeper. The reason is because there's so much attached to that shame. It's kind of become this snowball that's gone down the hill and just gathered more and more and more shame stories attached to it. And it's so deeply attached to your identity that you are not able to experience any external compassion. And so you still feel shame. The other reason is that you go ahead and talk about your shame, you're vulnerable. And this happens a lot for marginalized communities. And then you're gaslit for your shame. So the response is, oh, that didn't really happen the way you said, or I think you're over exaggerating, or in some way your experience is dismissed. And so you don't feel anything except for more shame, and it spirals down. So that's complex shame, when you are able to be vulnerable and your shame does not go away. That is complex shame. And the way it develops is, number one, you tend to be an internalizer, meaning you tend to take on blame. And that's probably based on your temperament and the way it interacted with your person and your environment to create a personality. And then the other is, like I said, you have this one shaming experience, and then you're running from your shame and you're sabotaging yourself. And you have many, many other shame experiences that attach to it. And so it's not easy to just kind of untangle. And so that's why I wrote this book. And the book is great for people who have simple shame because we still have to do all those exercises too. And it's perfect for people who have complex shame because I help them untangle it and then get to a place of maintenance.
What I love, though, is that you just said you described the complex shame almost the same as simple shame. It's just a whole nother level. Wow. And I think that's it's kind of like, it's my husband will like give me a compliment, right? And I'll be like, yeah, but and he's like, just take it. Like, but deep down, it's my body shame that is like, I don't feel like that, I look that good in this or whatever, so it is, I could understand what you're saying on that. Like the body shame is like, just, it's so deep because of childhood issues and maybe being nicknamed Thunder Thighs when I was in middle school. I don't know. Maybe I need to let that go.
That one's she's been holding on to.
I let that go a long time ago. I still just joke.
Sure, sure, she has. May I suggest a book, Tracy?
Okay, but you get what I'm saying.
Yes. Well, so my question is undealt simple shame. Like if you do not deal with simple shame, it can turn into complex shame. Like because it keeps simmering and going further and further down. So if you're not doing the healthy things to go, this isn't mine, this is not what I'm supposed to hold on to, then it can spiral and can turn into complex shame, correct?
100%. Most shame starts out as simple shame. And yes, then it snowballs and becomes complex shame.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
So then that's why, everybody needs this book because then they deal with the simple shame. You can deal with the simple shame by reading this book or starting your own podcast. That seems to work. And so then you can have complex shame like Tracy and I do from starting the podcast. We really do love this podcast. I just want you to know, Unlikely Housewives.
It's just like all things in life.
Yes.
They take work and you have to work on your shame.
Yeah.
Be real. Like we had this conversation out. Who were we just talking to? It was about marriage counseling. It was recent, but it was you go to counseling, not just when things are really, really bad and you're on the brink of divorce. Like you go when you're like, okay, I need help processing this. Like I can't let this go or get over this. Like there are, you address it when it happens. Like those are the things that you need to, otherwise it's going to develop into so much worse.
That's when the healthiest it's going to ever be. And so go ahead and take care of it then instead of waiting for it to pressurize.
So how would you, as we have, children, and you're a mom of 5. So how can we prep our children for the shame that they're going to feel and get from the world? Like, because the
world and from us.
Yeah, from us. Yes.
Like, on purpose. But heck, if we're not doing a good job yet,
right,
we're got to work on that ourselves. But it is quite common to be passed down. You've already stated that too.
Oh, yeah. And
really great question.
Before I even fully understood shame, I was great at shaming my kids. That was a wonderful tool to try to change behavior. And we do it because we are taught in society that if you shame somebody, their behavior will change. And research has shown that that's not true. When you shame people, their behavior goes underground. It gets worse, but it goes underground. And so it looks like it works on the surface. And so we do it in schools and churches and homes because it looks like it works, but it doesn't. And so the question that you asked was, okay, so like, what do we do for our kids? Because the reality is shame is never going away. It's a part of our world, right? And so even when I talk about untangling it, I never say you're never going to feel shame again. I feel shame every single day, mostly. And the thing about it though, is that I am in a place now, and we can help our children get there, that when shame comes, I see it. Like it comes, I feel it. I'm like, oh, I know what that is. That's shame. And I almost imagine myself standing on the side of a riverbank and shame is coming, right? And I see it going and it comes here and I identify it. It's shame. And I know exactly what shame wants me to do. It wants me to hide. And because I know that, I know I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to speak up. I am not going to allow shame to let me hide. And so then I just watch it flow back down, the river. And so we can allow our children to get to that place by identifying it, by making sure that when we are talking about a behavior or anything that needs to change, that we talk about it as a behavior. You did this. Not you are this, right? And it's so easy to just be like, oh, why are you so lazy? Or why are, whatever kind of words we use, or you're messy, or anything that we do to globally identify our children is going to shame them. But if we say, hey, there's a lot of things on this floor, we have got to pick it up because we don't want to trip, and then it's just the thing. It's not who you are as a person. And then the other thing we have to understand is shame is so sneaky, because shame doesn't just get created by words. It gets created by a look and a tone and body language, which we moms are. That down.
I know.
My body.
Yeah, that I'm checking out.
I will fail every day.
I well, let's make like when we're dead and gone, I want our children to hear this. We're sorry.
Yeah.
We're leaving you money for therapy. I left you money.
Sorry, a lot.
I tell my children all the time, especially my oldest, I'm like, you were my practice. I practiced on you, and I'm sorry, and I will definitely pay for your therapy.
Well, Andrew and I's joke is we laugh. We will pay for 1 degree, 1 wedding, and then all the therapy you can afford.
Oh, I like that.
We tell them
that's what I've done. Yeah. I paid for the degrees, and I paid for the therapy, all of it.
There you go.
And so, yes, I know it feels like so much, but if you are just aware, even just a little bit of the times that you're shaming your children, then what you can do is you can come back to them and you can talk to them about that. You can talk to them about shame and the difference between shame and guilt and whatever level they are, and just let them know you are good. Sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes we're messy. Sometimes we don't know things, right? Sometimes we're slow or too fast, whatever. But you as a person are good. And if you can continue to kind of just hone that language and even go back to your child and say, I might have made you feel this way. This is what I want you to know about you, right? And if you can help them to start identifying that, then you can also do it in their other interactions. What were the things you were telling about yourself when the teacher said that to you? Because you can see, here's the thing about shame. You can see it on people. It's like, it's just this cloak that just comes over, and you can see in your child, their head goes down, their shoulders slump. They have that look of shame. And when you see that on your child, you can talk to them about it and say, sometimes when I feel that way, I say these things to myself and I know that they're lies. And this is what I need to tell myself instead. And so just being able to identify that and giving your child a language, oh my goodness, it took me decades to find a language. And when I finally developed a language for shame, now I can overcome it. Otherwise, you just sit in it. You don't know what it is. And you just kind of wait for it to sink deeper so you can kind of ignore it, or, it can go away. So that's what we can do as parents. There's hope. And we will always feel shame and always shame our children, but we can help them in the process.
I like it.
I do too. And I think that's, it's just even in this episode, it's like, okay, we moved. It's very messy in my house right now. And it's very stressful.
Did you move recently? I haven't heard anything.
I get to use it till 2026.
Yes, you do.
But I just love how you said there's a lot of things on this floor. Let's just clean it up versus, can you just go get your room done? Can you just get your room, it really is just language.
Yes, it's language.
And I not use strong language. I need to also not do that.
Andrew and I tend to use colorful language, which I know you do too.
That's right. It's strong.
Okay, colorful. Vibrant.
Yeah, vibrant language. I like that.
That's what we call it in our house. It's terrible when my child turns around and like an adult says something and they see one of my children next, and they're like, "Oh, sorry," and they're like, "No, it's okay. I hear worse from mom and dad." I'm like, wow, Buzz, we're under it.
Yep. That's shame.
Yeah, that feels great. You're at a Christian school. Well, this has been so good. And again, the book is called Stronger in the Difficult Places. You can find it anywhere books are sold, Amazon. Do you have a website that people can buy it from also?
Yep, you can go to my website, Dr. Zoe Shaw. There's links there to all the places to buy it. Yeah.
Yes. And so do that. Follow her. You can subscribe to her podcast, Stronger in the Difficult Places, the same name of the book. And then you can find her on Instagram as Dr. Zoe Shaw, right?
Yep. I'm on all the socials, same name, Dr. Zoe Shaw. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we want to just say thank you so much for your time and for, can I just say, laughing with us?
Yeah.
Like, it's so good to laugh. And, we take this podcast very seriously because it is a labor of love and God has called us to do it and we want to do it with excellence. But you know what? Sometimes people just take things too seriously. Yeah. And we to get on here and to talk about something darker or difficult and be able to laugh. And you have this infectious smile and joy just speaking. And so it's been such a pleasure to talk to you about shame. So it's been lovely. It's been lovely.
That is my goal. Yes, that we can find pleasure in talking about shame. Thank you. I adore you guys. This has been so much fun.
Well, thank you. All right, Unlikely Housewives. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.
Whether we made you laugh or cry today, we pray you feel appreciated, bolder and braver than yesterday, stronger and more faithful for tomorrow, and living in who you were made to be today.
Join our online community on Facebook, link in the show notes. And be sure to review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you enjoy listening. Until next time, housewives, we give you permission to walk confidently, free, and to be intentional in your slippers or stilettos.